Dr. Gorka, thanks so much for your time. We truly appreciate it. First, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. For nearly a year now, you've been serving as Deputy Assistant to the President, as Senior Director for Counterterrorism at the White House. Can you say today that the world is safer than it was a year later or earlier?
Absolutely, empirically, scientifically, the world is a much, much safer place. The president has delivered 8 peace deals, intractable ancient rivalries, Azerbaijan, Armenia, Thailand, Cambodia, on and on and on. We are on the cusp of a deal with Russia and Ukraine. And of course, the most historic of the ones he has already delivered is Sharm el-Sheikh and the peace that is being established in Gaza. So unequivocally, he has achieved things that no other president in history has ever achieved. 1 peace deal in 4 years is okay, 2 is impressive, 8 in less than a year is truly monumental. On top of that, I can report we have killed more than 448 jihadists, leading jihadists across the globe since the president became commander-in-chief for a second time. Then you add the sealing of the border, no illegals coming into America, the targeting of the drug boats that have been killing Americans by the tens and hundreds of thousands. So on and on and on, the world is a much, much safer place because President Trump is back in the White House.
But we saw a violent weekend with recent incidents, an attack on US soldiers and interpreter in Syria, a terrorist attack targeting the Jewish community in Australia, a shooting at Brown University, and the FBI foiling a terrorist plot targeting multiple locations in the Los Angeles area on New Year's Eve. What's going on in this regard?
Well, the threat is always possible, and that is why we are always ready to investigate and disrupt. Congratulations to Director Kash Patel and the FBI team that broke that multi-person plot. We send our condolences to the people of Australia, the Jewish community who were murdered at Bondi Beach during that horrific, horrific attack. And in Syria, look, we are working to help the new regime in Syria function as a successful nation state. We are very glad the Assad regime has gone. We are very glad that Iran no longer can exploit the territory of Syria as it did under the Assad regime. But that government is still building its capabilities, and we want to help them make sure there is no attack on American soldiers or interpreters, and no attack against the people of Syria, whether they are Sunni, Shia, whether they are Alawite, whether they are Druze, whether they are Christians or Kurds. The president has made a decision to lift sanctions with regards to the regime in Damascus. We will help them where possible, but we have a very clear message as well to the countries of the region. They have a responsibility to help their friends in Syria as well. So the countries of the region that have an interest in minimizing jihadi Salafi attack should be helping the new regime in Damascus.
In your view, Dr. Gorka, were these attacks during the weekend or some of them coordinated?
There is no evidence, zero evidence that they are coordinated.
Senator Graham blamed Iran for some of these attacks. Do you think Iran was behind them?
So investigations are being undertaken as we speak, but I will say very clearly, Iran is the largest state sponsor of international terrorism, whether what it does by itself as a sponsor, or whether it's the facilitation of these Shia militias, these Sunni threat groups they also support. We know what they have done in Iraq, what they have done with regards to, plots against the life of the president. So the Islamo-fascist regime in Tehran is the greatest threat to regional stability, and that's why we congratulate our friends in Israel for what they did under Operation Rising Lion, and that's why the president took the decisive action he took with regards to the nuclear threat of Iran and the response under Operation Midnight Hammer. So we understand the #1 threat in the region, and it remains Iran.
And in your assessment, is there any coordination between Iran and ISIS?
So I'm not going to talk about sensitive issues, but Iran works with anyone who they think will be of use to them. Let me just leave it at that.
President Donald Trump signed an executive order last month initiating the process to designate certain chapters of the Muslim Brotherhood as foreign terrorist organizations and specially designated the global terrorists. What is the importance of this executive order which you have advocated for over a long period?
This is perhaps, of all the many things, this is perhaps one of the most historic actions the president has taken since January the 20th. We know the Ikhwan Muslimin, the Muslim Brotherhood, is the grandfather of all modern jihadi groups, even Shia groups. What Hassan al-Banna created in Egypt in 1928 is the foundation, the basis for every modern jihadi organization, whether it is ISIS, whether it is Al-Qaeda, whether it is Al-Nusra, whether it is Hezbollah, whether it is Hamas. So the president's designation of multiple chapters, including the historic Egyptian chapter, is just the beginning of a process where we will designate every chapter, and we will see the eventual destruction of the organization that has defined modern Salafi Wahhabist jihadism.
The White House stated that designating chapters of the Muslim Brotherhood will help combat the group's transnational network, which fuels terrorism and destabilization against U.S. interests and allies in the Middle East. How will this achieve that?
When we have a formal designation after the 45 days elapses and it becomes law, those chapters of the Muslim Brotherhood will be designated FTOs, foreign terrorist organizations. As a result, a whole toolbox of instruments will be opened that we can use at the FBI, at the Department of Treasury, at the State Department to prosecute those who are members of the chapters, prosecute anyone who funds or supports those chapters, freeze their assets, make their international travel impossible. So a whole host, a whole toolbox of tools will be available for us to squeeze the Muslim Brotherhood until it collapses.
In the designation process, will the U.S. take into consideration the interests of allies like Qatar and Turkey, which have close relations with the Muslim Brotherhood?
We have a very simple message. The president has been very clear. We wish every nation to prosper. We wish every nation to be secure. If you share common values, then you should work with us. So I think it's very interesting that at Sharm el-Sheikh, the president even invited the supreme leader, even invited the leadership of Iran to come to that peace-making historic event. Of course, they didn't come. So the door is open to those who may wish to change their minds on what they have done in the past. I see incredible things have occurred already with numerous nations who were invited to Sharm el-Sheikh. So the message is clear. We wish all nations to prosper and all nations to be safe. Their leaders have to decide now whether they wish to be considered partners of America, seriously partners or not.
Dr. Gorka, the executive order directs secretaries of state and treasury to recommend chapters for designation within 45 days. Why does the administration prevent designating the whole organization?
We tried that in the first Trump administration, and it was simply impossible. The Ikhwan Muslimin has been very clever in covering, in shielding, in masking its activities, variously trying to act as a political party, a charity, an opposition movement. So we have to follow the law, the statute for foreign terrorist designation, and that requires us to look at individual organizations to prove that they have killed Americans or been involved in acts that are against the national security and the interests of the United States. So we decided, you know, it is impossible to eat an elephant with one bite. You have to slice that challenge into individual bites. So that's why we are taking the approach we are taking. But rest assured, the 3 chapters the president designated are just the beginning. I held a meeting, my colleagues held a meeting yesterday where we discussed, I can't disclose now, but where we discussed the next national chapters that we will be designating. So it's very important to understand this administration, unlike the Biden administration, follows the law, and this is just the beginning of our designations.
Regarding the terrorist attack in Syria, Dr. Gorka, President Trump has pledged serious retaliation. What should we expect in this regard?
Serious retaliation. I cannot give you the details. It would be irresponsible of me to do so. But every time the president has promised swift action, he has taken it, whether it was against General Soleimani, whether it was with Operation Midnight Hammer and the Iranian nuclear weapons facilities, or whether it is with the drug boats. So we don't tell our enemies what we are going to do. We simply take action when the threat is clear and we have the option to take a clean shot. So you can be guaranteed of the fact the president will take retaliation, and our enemies and the world will find out when we actually take that action.
Should we expect it soon?
You will find out when it happens.
Reports indicate that the perpetrators of the Syrian attack gained access by infiltrating Syrian security forces. Will this influence U.S. coordination with Syrian government forces and the Syrian government?
Well, right now we are interested in the Syrian government building its counterterrorism capabilities. They have a challenge in terms of vetting the individuals that are working for the new regime. But it is very obvious that whilst this is a tragedy for America, for the families of the 2 National Guards troops and for the American interpreter, this is also a serious problem for the regime of Syria, for the government of Damascus. So they wish to fix this as well. If we can help them to do that, we will do so. But the responsibility is the responsibility of the president of Syria.
In this topic, Dr. Gorka, last year you stated in an interview that President Ahmed al-Shara of Syria has a long jihadi background and that successful jihadis rarely become democrats unless defeated. Do you still view him as a jihadi after his visit to Washington and his meetings with the president?
So a human being is judged by their actions. Talk is cheap, as we say here in America. And if I look at the actions of the new regime in Damascus, they have taken some very interesting positive steps, especially when it concerns the threat of ISIS to the regime itself. So far, so good. The tragedy that occurred is a tragedy. We have seen a failure of the security forces in Suwaida and elsewhere, of course, the attack against the Christian church. But it is in the interests of the president of Syria and the government of Damascus to stabilize their own country and to be an effective counterterrorism force. There are some positive signs. I would just send a very simple message to the other countries of the region who are interested in President Trump lifting sanctions. Those countries know who they are. They have a far greater interest in seeing Syria become stable. So what the president will be expecting of those heads of states and those governments of the region is to help stabilize Syria, not simply be spectators.
The Iraqi government recently designated Hezbollah in Lebanon and the Houthis as terrorist organizations before retracting the decision. How do you view this, and what is the U.S. doing to protect the Kurdistan regional government and the area from the attacks that happened on the oil facilities?
So let me just say the following. I don't think this is a surprise to any of your viewers, but what the Kurdish people have done, shoulder to shoulder with our forces in the region, how you have helped us neutralize jihadi threats, must be recognized. The Kurdish people are incredible fighters, and we want to recognize them as friends to the American people, not just the American soldiers, Marines, Special Forces, troops that they fought with. So thank you for everything our Kurdish friends have done since September the 11th. When it comes to decisions by the Iraqi administration, the Iraqi administration has to represent the people of Iraq, all the people of Iraq. And right now, after the election, I will send the same message to the people in Baghdad who are representing the people of Iraq. You need to understand that you will be measured. Your seriousness as an administration will be measured. We are involved in so many different historic activities right now, from Sharm el-Sheikh to the drug boats, to building the wall, to the tariffs. We have great expectations of our partners, and you must act in ways that make you look like serious countries. The Kurds are serious people, and we respect them. We would like the government of Baghdad and whoever comes out of the election as the new individual who will be prime minister, we would like to see a serious attitude from their partnership with the United States. Let me leave it at that. What is your question on Lebanon?
You visited Lebanon recently, and you've met with your friend, President Aoun. What impressions did you take away from Beirut, and do you expect Hezbollah to be disarmed by diplomacy or by force?
I had an incredible trip to Beirut with my colleague from the Treasury, the Undersecretary John Hurley, and my counterterrorism team. I'd never been to Lebanon before. It was wonderful to reconnect with my former student when he was a colonel here in America as a foreign student, and he is now the president, Joseph Aoun. Joseph Aoun is a patriot. He loves his country. He's a serious man, a military man. We had very frank discussions, very candid discussions with both him, the president, and the prime minister, and other patriots. Again, the same message to Beirut that I was sending to Baghdad as well. You will be measured. by your seriousness. We would wish to see Lebanon flourish as well. The Lebanese people are some of the brightest people, most hardworking, incredible businessmen, entrepreneurs. We want to see a success in that country. Going back to a prior question, the success of Lebanon has to do with Iran. Iran and Hezbollah is like a vine. It is like a growth, an organic growth that is strangling the cedar that is the tree of Lebanon. They can't fix that overnight, but we wish to see the Lebanese government, including my friend Joseph, take some serious measures that telegraph, that signal they're serious, especially when it comes to the smuggling of cash and gold through that country by terrorists like Hezbollah, stronger control of the port system, a bank reform, the GAP, the GAP, a reform of the banking sector in Lebanon. A few concrete steps would send a very, very clear signal to this administration that Lebanon understands who the president is and this historic opportunity. So we wish Iraq, we wish Lebanon, we wish the Kurdish people, everyone in the region to flourish. We would like to see Iran not be under the heel of an Islamo-fascist murderous regime. We wish all the people of the Middle East to flourish. It is now up to the political leadership in each of those countries to show they understand the opportunity they have when President Trump is the president. They must act, and they must act now if they wish to be taken seriously as our friends and our partners.
Dr. Gorka, thank you so much for your time. Deputy Assistant to the President and Senior Director for Counterterrorism. We truly appreciate it, and hopefully we'll see you soon.
God bless you, and have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Same to you.